None of us control the color of our skin. So why is there so much racial bias in this world? This is an incredibly important question, and it touches on the complex history and social dynamics of race and human behavior. At the core, racial bias isn't about skin color itself, but about how societies have historically perceived and treated people based on skin color. Let's break it down into key, easy to understand points. Human evolution and grouping. Humans evolved in groups, and historically these groups were often isolated, leading to the development of unique physical traits, cultures, and languages. People naturally grew to trust those who looked or acted like them because it helped them survive in environments where strangers could be a threat. But in today's world, these biases aren't necessary for survival and often lead to discrimination instead. Historical systems of power. Many of today's biases stem from past systems of power. In history, societies and groups in power sometimes use differences like skin color to justify unfair treatment. Colonization, slavery, and segregation were based on viewing certain groups as less than others, and these beliefs were passed down over generations. Media and cultural narratives. Today, even when laws change, media and cultural narratives can still reinforce stereotypes. If someone grows up seeing people with a certain skin color represented negatively in movies or the news, it can influence how they think, often without realizing it. These stereotypes become shortcuts that people use to make judgments, even if those judgments are unfair or inaccurate. Lack of exposure and education. Bias often thrives when people don't have meaningful relationships with diverse groups. When people live in areas with little diversity, they may rely on stereotypes instead of personal experiences. Education that includes honest discussions about race and history can help break down these stereotypes, but not everyone gets this kind of education. Confirmation bias. People tend to notice things that confirm what they already believe and ignore evidence that contradicts it. This is called confirmation bias, and it can reinforce racial biases. For example, if someone has a bias against a particular race, they might only notice behavior that aligns with their stereotype and ignore behavior that contradicts it. Efforts to change. The good news is that many people are working hard to address racial bias. By acknowledging that these biases exist and actively working to unlearn them, society can make progress. Education, meaningful conversations, and exposure to diverse perspectives all help. And when people recognize their own biases, they can begin to make better, fairer choices. In short, racial bias is complex and rooted in history, societal structures, and human psychology. Understanding it helps us work toward a world where everyone is valued for who they are, not for something as uncontrollable as skin color. Stay safe, stay secure, and remember that change is slow but possible, especially as more people become aware and committed to equality. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, and thanks for reading, watching, and listening.